The sky over New Eden turned red as the Krell ships entered the atmosphere. It was supposed to be a normal day on humanity's most successful colony world. Children were at school, adults were at work, farmers tended their crops in the fertile valleys that had given the planet its name. No one saw the attack coming. Commander Jack Hayes stood at the main viewport of Defense Station Aegis, his hands gripping the railing so hard his knuckles turned white. Below him, New Hope, the capital city of New Eden, burned. Columns of black smoke rose from the once beautiful buildings. The colony's limited defense ships had been destroyed within minutes of the Krell arrival. "Commander, we've lost contact with the western settlements," said Lieutenant Amanda Wilson. Her voice shook, but she kept working at the communications station. "Eastern Command reports total destruction. They're not taking prisoners." Jack nodded. He had been in the military long enough to know what an extinction campaign looked like. The Krell weren't interested in resources or territory. They were here to wipe out every trace of human presence. "Any word from New Hope?" he asked, his thoughts on his wife Susan and their 7-year-old daughter Lily. They lived in an apartment near the colony's main hospital where Susan worked as a doctor. Amanda shook her head. "All civilian channels are jammed. Military communications are spotty at best." Jack turned to face the 20 crew members of the station. They were watching him, waiting for orders, for hope, for something he wasn't sure he could give them. "The Krell have destroyed 4 of our 5 orbital platforms," he said. "We're the last one standing, and I don't think that's by accident. They're coming for us next." As if on cue, the station's alert system blared. "Multiple hostile craft approaching," the automated system announced. "Impact in 3 minutes." "They want our data," Jack said. "Everything we know about Earth's defenses, colony locations, fleet movements. We can't let them have it." He turned to Amanda. "Lieutenant Wilson, I need you to download all our tactical data on the Krell. Their weapons, their ships, their attack patterns. Everything we've recorded since they arrived." She nodded and began working quickly at her console. Jack addressed the rest of the crew. "Begin evacuation procedures. Get to the escape pods. Set course for Earth." He paused. "Someone needs to stay behind to initiate the self-destruct sequence and ensure the Krell don't take the station intact." The crew looked at each other. They all knew what he was saying. "I'll stay, sir," offered Chief Engineer Pete Dawson. "Engineering is my responsibility." Jack shook his head. "I appreciate that, Pete. But you've got kids back on Earth. I'm staying. That's an order. The rest of you move out." The crew hesitated, but years of training kicked in. They began the evacuation process, moving quickly to their assigned stations. Jack walked over to Amanda's console. "How's that download coming, Lieutenant?" "Almost there, sir," she said, inserting a small drive into the console. "This contains everything we know about them. Their ship designs, weapons capabilities, even some biological data we managed to scan." The console beeped. "Download complete." "Good," Jack said. "Now get to an escape pod." Amanda didn't move. "Sir, there are only 5 pods left. We have 21 crew members." "Then you better hurry," Jack said. "I'm not leaving you here alone, Commander." The station shook violently. The Krell had arrived. "Breach in Sector 3, the station's computer reported. Hull integrity compromised." Jack grabbed Amanda's shoulders. "Listen to me. The data you have might be humanity's only chance. Earth needs to know what we're up against. I've already lost my family today. I'm not losing this war too." Tears filled Amanda's eyes, but she nodded. "Yes, sir." "Computer initiate self-destruct sequence," Jack said. "Authorization Hayes Alpha 79. Self-destruct sequence initiated," the computer responded. 10 minutes to detonation." "That should give everyone time to get clear," Jack said. "Now go." Amanda took the data drive and ran toward the escape pod bay. Jack turned back to the viewport. New Eden had been humanity's greatest achievement. 50 years of colonization, building, farming, living, all gone in less than a day. The station shook again. Jack made his way to the weapons locker and grabbed a pulse rifle. He wasn't going down without a fight. Amanda reached the escape pod bay to find chaos. With only 5 pods and 16 remaining crew members, People were fighting to get aboard. She clutched the data drive in her hand, knowing its importance. Chief Dawson spotted her and pulled her aside. "Last pod," he said, pointing to a small one-person craft at the end of the bay. "Go. Now." "But what about—" "That's an order from the commander," Dawson said. "We'll find other ways." Amanda knew he was lying, but she also knew her duty. She ran to the pod and climbed in. As the door sealed, she caught a final glimpse of Dawson saluting her. The pod ejected from the station with a violent jerk. Through the small viewport, Amanda watched as Krell boarding ships attached themselves to the station like parasites. Tears streamed down her face as she drifted into the darkness of space. Inside the station, Jack had made his way to the central corridor. He could hear the sounds of the Krell breaking through the inner doors. They were tall, insect-like creatures with multiple limbs and chitinous armor. Their weapons fired bursts of energy that melted through metal and flesh alike. "Come on, you bugs," Jack muttered, taking position behind a barricade he had hastily constructed. "Let's see what you're made of." The first Krell rounded the corner, its compound eyes scanning the corridor. Jack fired, the pulse rifle sending a bolt of energy into the creature's head. It fell, but 3 more took its place. Jack kept firing until his weapon overheated. The Krell advanced, their alien language a series of clicks and hisses that made his skin crawl. He drew his sidearm, knowing it would make little difference. "Computer, time to detonation," he called out. 2 minutes to detonation," the computer responded. Jack smiled grimly. At least he had managed to buy enough time. He hoped Amanda had gotten away safely. He hoped the data she carried would help Earth prepare for what was coming. As the Krell surrounded him, Jack thought of Susan and Lily. He hoped their end had been quick, and as the station began its final countdown, as the Krell closed in from all sides, Commander Jack Hayes stood tall. He wouldn't live to see Earth's response to this attack. He wouldn't witness the awakening of humanity's last defense. But in his final moments, as the station exploded around him, taking a Krell command ship with it, Jack Hayes had given humanity a fighting chance. In the darkness of space, Amanda's tiny pod drifted among the debris of a fallen world. Inside, she clutched the data drive to her chest, her tears floating in zero gravity. New Eden was gone, and unless she could get this information to Earth, it would only be the first of humanity's worlds to burn. Amanda's escape pod drifted through the cold emptiness of space for 23 days. The life support systems, designed for only a week of use, began to fail on day 9. The temperature dropped. The air grew thin. She rationed the emergency, water supplies taking just enough to keep her alive. Sometimes she dreamed of New Eden before the attack, the blue skies, the vast wheat fields, the children playing in New Hope's Central Park. Other times she saw Commander Hayes' face as he ordered her to leave him behind. She clutched the data drive in her hand even as she slept. It contained humanity's only hope. On the 24th day, as Amanda's consciousness faded in and out, a light appeared outside her viewport. At first she thought it was another hallucination. Then the pod shook as something locked onto it. "Pod E-17, this is USS Defender. Do you copy?" A voice crackled through the failing communication system. Amanda tried to respond, but her throat was too dry. She managed to tap on the metal wall of the pod. "We're bringing you in." "Hang tight," the voice said. The next few hours passed in a blur. Amanda felt the pod being pulled into a larger ship. There was the hiss of pressurization. Then, the pod door opened. Bright lights. Concerned faces, hands reaching for her. "She's alive." Someone shouted, "Get Dr. Reyes." Amanda was lifted onto a stretcher. As they carried her through metal corridors, she gripped the arm of one of the rescuers. "The drive," she whispered, holding up her hand. "Take it to Earth. Now." Then darkness took her. Dr. Olivia Reyes had seen many cases of extreme dehydration during her 10 years as chief medical officer aboard the USS Defender, but few as severe as this. The woman they had pulled from the escape pod was barely alive. Her skin was dry and tight against her bones. Her heart rate was dangerously slow. "Get 2 IVs started," Olivia ordered the medical team. Full hydration protocol, vitamin supplements, and begin oxygen therapy. As they worked to save Amanda's life, Captain Paul Martinez entered the medical bay. He held a small data drive in his hand. "How is she?" he asked, watching the medical team work. "Touch and go," Olivia replied. "She should have died days ago. Whatever kept her holding on must have been important." Paul looked down at the drive. "She was clutching this like her life depended on it. Said we needed to take it to Earth immediately." "Any idea what's on it?" "No, but it's military-grade encryption. We've identified her as Lieutenant Amanda Wilson, communications officer from Defense Station Aegis. She was stationed above New Eden." Olivia's hands paused in their work. Everyone had heard about New Eden by now. The total destruction of humanity's most successful colony had sent shockwaves throughout Earth and the remaining colonies. "We're changing course," Paul said. "Heading straight back to Earth. Admiral Frost wants us there yesterday." 3 days later, Amanda opened her eyes. The bright lights of the medical bay made her squint. Her throat felt less like sandpaper and more like human tissue again. "Welcome back," said a woman in a doctor's uniform. "I'm Dr. Reyes." Amanda tried to sit up, panic rising in her chest. "The drive is safe," Dr. Reyes assured her gently, pushing her back down. "Captain Martinez has it. We're on our way to Earth right now." Amanda relaxed slightly, then the memories flooded back. New Eden burning, Commander Hayes staying behind, the Krell ships destroying everything in sight. "They're coming," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "The giants need to wake up." Dr. Reyes looked confused but nodded. "Try to rest. Admiral Frost will want to debrief you when we reach Earth." In the high-security conference room of the United Nations Space Command headquarters, Admiral William Frost watched the footage from New Eden for the 5th time. The images, recovered from Amanda's data drive, showed the systematic destruction of humanity's proudest achievement. Cities reduced to ash, farms burned, defense ships cut apart by weapons far beyond current human technology. Around the table sat Earth's top military leaders. General Irene Foster of the Global Defense Force, Admiral Carl Peterson of the Solar Fleet, Colonel Henry Barton of Special Operations, and Dr. Catherine Green, the UNSC's senior analyst for alien threats. "Play it again," Admiral Frost said, his voice heavy. The footage showed Krell ships, massive insect-like vessels firing on civilian targets with terrible precision. No warnings, no attempts at communication, just destruction. "They're not interested in our resources," Dr. Green said. "This isn't an invasion, it's extermination." "The lieutenant's data includes detailed scans of their technology," General Foster added. "Their weapons are at least 50 years beyond our most advanced systems." Admiral Peterson shook his head. "We've lost contact with 3 more colony worlds since New Eden fell. Proxima Centauri, Tau Ceti, Epsilon Eridani, all gone." The louds room fell silent. These were humanity's first steps into the stars. Decades of work and trillions of dollars invested. Millions of lives, all wiped away in a matter of weeks. "Conventional forces won't cut it," Colonel Barton said finally. "The data shows they can intercept our missiles, outmaneuver our ships, and their armor deflects our energy weapons." Admiral Frost stood up and walked to the window. From this height, he could see the sprawling metropolis of New Washington, Earth's capital city. 10 billion people lived on this planet. None of them knew how close extinction might be. "There is one option," he said quietly. The others exchanged glances. They knew what he was thinking. "Project Behemoth was shut down for good reasons," General Foster said cautiously. "And it was preserved for worse ones," Frost replied. "We always knew this day might come." Dr. Green cleared her throat. "The Titans were deemed too dangerous, too unpredictable. They're not machines we can simply turn on and off. They're our only hope." Frost turned to face the group. "I've already spoken with the Security Council. They've given authorization to reactivate the project." The room erupted in argument. Frost let them talk, let them voice their concerns. When they finally quieted, he leaned forward, hands on the table. "We created the Titans for exactly this scenario. A threat too great. For conventional forces. Yes, they're dangerous. Yes, they were locked away because we feared what they might become. But right now I fear extinction more. He straightened. The order has been given. Chief Engineer Ryan Clark is already at the Olympus facility preparing for revival procedures. How many will you wake? Colonel Barton asked. All of them, Frost replied. All 12. Humanity's giants are entering the battlefield. As the Defender approached Earth, Amanda Wilson stood at the viewport in her temporary quarters. She had been debriefed multiple times, telling her story over and over. The destruction of New Eden, Commander Hayes' sacrifice, the Krell's terrifying efficiency. Earth grew larger in the viewport. Somewhere down there, decisions were being made. Plans were forming. And if the message she had carried home was heard, humanity's last line of defense was awakening from its long sleep. The giants were stirring. The Olympus facility lay hidden beneath the lunar surface, far from prying eyes. For 20 years it had been almost entirely abandoned, maintained by a skeleton crew and automated systems. Now, the massive underground complex hummed with activity as technicians and scientists rushed to prepare for the awakening. Chief Engineer Ryan Clark stood before the first revival chamber. A thin layer of frost covered the transparent front, obscuring the massive figure inside. Ryan had spent the last 15 years of his career maintaining these chambers and the beings within them, never truly believing they would be activated. All systems check out, said Dr. Stephanie Morgan, the facility's chief medical officer. She had been transferred from Earth's premier military hospital just 3 days ago. Bio readings are stable, brain activity is increasing as planned. Ryan nodded, his hand hovering over the final activation switch. Have you ever seen one awake? He asked quietly. Stephanie shook her head. Just the files. You? Once during the final testing phase, before they were put to sleep. Ryan's eyes took on a distant look. I've never seen anything like it. They're not just bigger. They're more. The chamber's control panel beeped, indicating the final revival sequence was ready. Ryan took a deep breath and pressed the switch. The chamber hissed as internal pressure equalized. The frost on the front panel melted away, revealing what lay inside. A massive human figure, nearly 10 feet tall, floated in the clear suspension, fluid. His proportions were perfect. Not a giant from mythology with awkward, oversized limbs, but a human scaled up with flawless symmetry. Muscles rippled beneath pale skin marked with integration ports for the combat systems he would soon wear. The fluid drained from the chamber. As the last of it emptied, the giant's chest expanded with his first breath in 20 years. His eyes opened, startlingly alert, taking in everything at once. The chamber door slid open. The giant stepped forward, water dripping from his body. Standing on the platform, he towered over Ryan and Stephanie. Several security officers instinctively raised their weapons before forcing themselves to lower them again. Titan Alpha 01, Dr. Morgan said, her voice only slightly unsteady. Can you hear me? The giant looked down at her. His voice, when he spoke, was deep but clear. My name is Adam. Ryan checked the monitors. Vital signs normal. Neural patterns stable. Muscle response optimal. Adam, Stephanie corrected herself. Do you know why you've been awakened? The giant was silent for a moment, as if accessing internal memories or perhaps receiving data through one of his neural ports. Extinction-level threat. Protocol Lazarus. That's right, she confirmed. Do you remember your purpose? Adam's gaze swept the room, taking in the humans who stared up at him with a mixture of awe and fear. To shield humanity from extinction. Over the next 48 hours, the remaining 11 Titans were awakened. Each emerged from their long sleep with perfect recall of their training and purpose. Each stood as a monument to human genetic engineering and biotechnology. Grace, a female Titan standing just as tall as her brothers, specialized in technological warfare. Daniel's enhanced brain made him a tactical genius. Ben's reinforced skeletal structure made him nearly indestructible in combat. Admiral Frost arrived as the last Titan awoke. He stood before the 12 giants gathered in the facility's main hall, a small human facing the most powerful weapons his species had ever created. "You were made for this moment," he told them. 20 years ago, we feared what you might become. We feared your power. Now we need that power." The Titans listened silently as Frost explained the Krell threat. He showed them the footage from New Eden, the destroyed colonies, the failed military responses. "You are our last line of defense," he concluded. "Our final hope." Adam stepped forward. "The Goliath suits?" "Being prepared now," Frost confirmed. "They've been upgraded over the years, even as you slept." The Titans exchanged glances. The Goliath battlesuits were their other half, 30-foot tall, exoskeletons that amplified their already considerable strength and speed. Inside those suits, each Titan became a walking fortress, capable of engaging enemies that would crush normal human soldiers. "When do we deploy?" asked Grace. "The Krell have reached Saturn's moons," Frost replied. "Our forces there can't hold them much longer. You leave in 6 hours." As the Titans moved to prepare, Ryan led Adam to the armory where his Goliath suit waited. The massive exoskeleton gleamed under the lights, its armor plates bearing the scars of test runs and simulations. "It remembers you," Ryan said. "The neural interface has been maintained all these years." Adam placed one giant hand on the suit's chest plate. "And I remember it. There's something you should know," Ryan said, lowering his voice. "The public doesn't know about you, about any of the Titans. When Project Behemoth was shut down, all records were sealed. They feared us. Yes, but now they need you, even if they don't know it yet." Adam nodded slowly. "We were not created to be loved, Chief Engineer Clark. We were created to protect." On the observation deck, Dr. Morgan watched as the Titans underwent their final preparations. Beside her stood Amanda Wilson, still recovering, but insisted on being present for the deployment. "Will they be enough?" Amanda asked quietly. Stephanie had no answer. Instead, she looked at her medical readings. Each Titan's vital signs were displayed on her tablet. Heart rate steady, brain activity optimal, stress hormones regulated. They showed no fear. "They're not like us," she said finally. "They were engineered from the cellular level up for war. It's not just their size. It's how they think, how they process information and stress." "Are they human?" Amanda wondered. Stephanie considered this. "They're what humanity created when we faced extinction. I don't know if that makes them more human than us or less." In the launch bay, the Titans connected to their Goliath suits for the first time in 20 years. Adam felt the familiar rush as his nervous system linked with the machine. The suit's massive arms became his arms. Its strength flowed into him, and his consciousness expanded to fill the 30-foot frame. The Titans' dropships were massive, specially designed to carry the Goliath suits into battle. As Adam strapped himself into the deployment harness, he looked at his brothers and sisters. They had been created together, trained together, and then slept for 2 decades while the humans who made them debated their right to exist. "Saturn, defense line has fallen," came the announcement over the comm system. "Krell forces advancing toward Jupiter. Estimated arrival at Earth in 16 days. Adam's Goliath helmet closed around his head. Through the neural link, he sent a message to the other Titans. "We were made for this day," his thoughts echoed in their minds. "For this enemy. The humans who created us feared what we might become. Today we show them what we are." The dropship's engines roared to life. Deep within the lunar facility, massive doors opened to the vacuum of space. The ships rose, 12 harbingers of humanity's counterattack. On Earth, people looked up at the night sky, unaware that their planet's greatest defenders were leaving to meet the greatest threat humanity had ever faced. They didn't know about the giants who fought for them. Not yet. But they would soon. The space around Saturn's moon Titan had become a graveyard of human ships. The defense fleet, once Earth's proud outer line of protection, now drifted in broken pieces. Lieutenant Eric Daniels crouched behind a makeshift barricade on the moon's surface, the modified atmosphere inside his combat suit keeping him alive in the hostile environment. His squad of 20 soldiers had been reduced to 8 in the 3 hours since the Krell landed. "Status report," Eric called over the comm link. "Running low on ammo, sir," replied Private Kelly Jordan, her voice tense but controlled. Long-range communications still jammed. No word from command. "They've hit every outpost from here to Enceladus," added Sergeant Greg Miller. "We might be the last ones standing." Eric looked over the barricade at the strange buildings the Krell were constructing. Their architecture was alien, organic shapes that seemed to grow rather than being built. Inside those structures, the Krell moved with purpose. Their insect-like bodies, standing 7 feet tall on multiple legs, worked with machine-like efficiency. They're not just destroying, Eric realized aloud. They're replacing, terraforming. A shadow fell over their position. Eric looked up to see a massive Krell ship descending toward their location. It was over then. His squad had fought well, but they were out of options. "It's been an honor," he told his people. Then the sky lit up with streaks of fire. At first, Eric thought it was more Krell ships, but these were smaller, faster, and they were heading straight for the Krell vessel. "Are those drop pods?" Sergeant Miller asked. The object slammed into the moon's surface with enough force to send tremors through the ground. The Krell ship turned its weapons on the new threat, but too late. The pods cracked open and something rose from the impact craters. Eric stared in disbelief. Standing 30 feet tall, humanoid in shape but armored like walking tanks, 5 massive figures emerged. Each carried weapons sized to match their enormous frames. One held a shield wider than a shuttlecraft. Another wielded what looked like a handheld railgun. "What are they?" Private Jordan whispered. The giants moved with surprising speed, spreading out to engage the Krell forces. The one with the shield charged directly at the nearest Krell ground unit, a 6-legged walking weapon platform. The shield didn't just block the Krell's energy blasts, it absorbed them, glowing brighter with each hit. When the giant reached the Krell unit, it swung the shield in a wide arc, smashing through the alien machine like it was made of paper. Without pausing, the giant continued forward, creating a path for the others. Eric's comm unit suddenly crackled to life with a new signal. "This is Titan Daniel to all human forces. Fall back to defensive position Echo 7. Repeat, fall back to Echo 7. We will cover your retreat." The voice was deep, authoritative, but unmistakably human. Eric hesitated only a moment before giving the order. "You heard them. Fall back to Echo 7. As his squad moved, Eric watched the battle unfold. The giants, Titans, they had called themselves, fought with coordinated precision. One of them, slightly smaller than the others but still towering over any human, moved to a high point and began firing the railgun. Each shot took down a Krell flyer. "Covering fire for human forces retreating from Sector 5, the Titan announced, over the comm. "Move quickly. We've drawn their main force to our position." At Echo 7, a defensive bunker built into the moon's surface, Eric found more survivors. Nearly 50 soldiers had made it here from various outposts. A medical team worked on the wounded. Some stared at their screens, watching the impossible battle outside. "What are those things?" demanded Colonel Linda Baker, the highest-ranking officer present. "No one told me about 30-foot soldiers in our arsenal." "They call themselves Titans," Eric replied. "And they're turning the tide." Outside, the battle had intensified. The Krell had recovered from their surprise and were now focusing their attacks on the Titans, but the giants were impossibly tough. Their armor deflected or absorbed energy blasts that had cut through standard military ships. Their weapons tore through Krell technology that had resisted all conventional attacks. One Titan, a female by the shape of her armor, grabbed a Krell dropship as it tried to land. With terrifying strength, she tore it in half, the pieces crashing to the ground on either side of her. As Krell soldiers poured from the wreckage, she engaged them in hand-to-hand combat, moving faster than something her size should be able to move. "That's Grace," said a new voice. Eric turned to see a woman in a medical uniform. The patch on her shoulder identified her as Dr. Stephanie Morgan. "You know them?" Colonel Baker asked. "I helped wake them," Dr. Morgan replied. She looked at the screens showing the battle. They were created for this moment, to fight enemies that normal humans couldn't hope to defeat. On the largest screen, they could see what appeared to be the lead Titan. Its armor was distinguished by red markings on the shoulders and chest. It fought at the center of the Krell forces, drawing the majority of their attacks while the other Titans used the distraction to destroy key enemy positions. "That's Adam," Dr. Morgan said. "The first one we woke." Adam's Goliath suit had taken significant damage, but he showed no signs of slowing. He lifted a Krell war machine over his head and threw it into a group of alien soldiers, then turned to fire a shoulder-mounted weapon at an approaching ship. Through the neural link, Adam could feel the other Titans. Daniel provided tactical updates from his elevated position. Grace reported success in destroying the eastern Krell deployment area. Ben and Sam were holding the western approach, preventing Krell reinforcements from landing. "They're retreating." Daniel's thoughts came through the link. "The primary hive ship is recalling ground forces." Adam watched as the Krell began to pull back, their organized retreat as efficient as their attack had been. They were not defeated, just surprised by an enemy that could actually hurt them. "Secure the area," Adam ordered the other Titans. "Establish a perimeter. We hold this position." Inside the bunker, the human soldiers watched in amazement as the Krell forces withdrew. Some cheered. Others remained stunned into silence. They had been prepared to die here, their last stand unknown to the people they were trying to protect. Now, against all odds, they had survived. Colonel Baker approached Dr. Morgan. "We need to establish contact with Earth Command. They need to know what happened here." "And what did happen here, Colonel?" Dr. Morgan asked. Baker looked at the screens where the Titans were securing the battlefield, their massive forms moving with purpose among the wreckage of Krell ships and the bodies of their insect-like soldiers. "Humanity just showed the Krell that we can fight back," she said. "The giants have entered the battlefield." As night fell on Titan's surface, Adam stood watch over the human bunker. The Krell had withdrawn entirely from this sector, but he knew they would return with new tactics, new weapons. This was just the first battle in what would be a long war. Through the bunker's viewport, he could see the human soldiers watching him, their faces showing a mixture of awe, gratitude, and fear. They didn't fully understand what he was. Few humans did. But today they had fought together against a common enemy. It was a start. Adam turned his gaze to the stars, toward the distant point of light that was Earth, the home he had been created to protect, even though he had never set foot on its surface. For 20 years, humans had feared the Titans enough to keep them asleep. Now those same humans would need to trust them enough to let them fight. The real war was just beginning. 1 month after the battle at Titan, Earth had changed. News of the Titans spread quickly once the survivors returned home. At first there was fear. The idea of 10-foot-tall super soldiers piloting 30-foot battlesuits scared many people. But as stories of their victory against the Krell became widespread, fear turned to hope. In the command center beneath New Washington, Admiral Frost studied the latest battle reports. The wall screens showed the positions of both human and Krell forces throughout the solar system. For the first time since the war began, the red dots representing the Krell were being pushed back. "The Titans have secured the Jupiter moons," reported General Foster. "Krell forces are retreating toward the outer planets." "Not retreating," said Dr. Catherine Green, who had been studying Krell communication patterns for weeks now. "Regrouping. They're adaptable. They're learning." Admiral Frost nodded. The initial victories had been because of surprise. The Krell had never faced anything like the Titans before. But that advantage wouldn't last forever. "What about your research?" He asked Dr. Green. "Any progress on their communication system?" Catherine pulled up several charts on her tablet. "We've identified patterns in their quantum signals. I believe their entire force is connected through a central consciousness, a hive mind. But it's not just giving orders. It's actually part of every Krell we've encountered." "Like a shared brain?" General Foster asked. "More complex than that," Catherine replied. "But yes, in a way. And I think I've located it." She pointed to a sector beyond Neptune's orbit. "Their command ship never engages directly in battle. It stays hidden, coordinating everything. Admiral Frost stared at the location. If we could strike directly at this ship, we might disrupt the entire Krell force, Catherine finished. But getting to it would be nearly impossible. It's protected by their strongest fleet elements. The Titans could do it, Frost said, quietly. In the Olympus facility on the moon, the Titans prepared for their next mission. Their Goliath suits were being repaired and upgraded based on what they had learned fighting the Krell. Adam stood as technicians worked on his suit's damaged arm joint. Nearby, Grace was having new weapon systems installed in her suit. Ryan Clark moved among them, checking systems and making adjustments. The neural interface is showing some strain, he told Adam. These extended battles are pushing the technology to its limits. And us? Adam asked. Ryan hesitated. Your biological systems are holding up better than we expected, but there are signs of stress there too. Adam nodded. The battles had been intense. The Krell fought with a cohesion that was hard to counter, as if each soldier knew exactly what the others were doing at all times. Only the Titans' neural link to each other provided a similar advantage. Dr. Morgan approached with a data pad. Admiral Frost is coming with a new mission briefing. Something big. Before Adam could respond, an alert sounded. All around the facility, screens lit up with warning signals. Krell ships detected, announced the automated system. Multiple targets approaching lunar orbit. They found us, Grace said, her expression grim. They tracked us back to our base. The technicians scattered as the Titans moved to their battle stations. Adam's suit wasn't fully repaired, but there was no time. He connected to the neural interface, feeling the familiar rush as the Goliath became an extension of his body. All Titans deploy defensive formation. He ordered through the link. Protect the facility at all costs. The 12 Titans moved through the launch bay, their massive forms shaking the floor with each step. As they reached the lunar surface, they could see the Krell ships approaching. Dozens of them, far more than they had faced at Saturn or Jupiter. They've adapted their weapons, Daniel reported, his enhanced senses detecting changes in the Krell ships. Energy signatures are different from previous encounters. Before the Titans could form their defensive line, the Krell opened fire. New energy weapons lanced out, striking with pinpoint accuracy. The beams bypassed the Titans' shields, burning through armor that had previously been impervious. They've analyzed our defenses, Grace said, her suit's left arm hanging useless after a direct hit. They know exactly where to hit us. Adam felt pain as a beam struck his suit's chest plate, transferring energy into the neural connection. The Krell had indeed learned. They were targeting the very systems that made the Titans effective. Inside the facility, Admiral Frost arrived in time to see the battle unfolding on the monitors. "Get me a line to Adam," he ordered. Ryan connected him to the Titan's communication system. "Adam, this is Admiral Frost. You need to fall back. We can evacuate the facility." "Negative," Adam replied, his voice strained as his suit took another hit. "If we retreat, they follow us to Earth. We make our stand here." Through the neural link, Adam sent new instructions to the other Titans. Instead of their standard formation, they split into 3 teams. Grace led one group on a flanking attack. Daniel took another to higher ground. Adam led the direct assault. Dr. Green rushed into the command center out of breath. "Admiral, I've finished analyzing their communication patterns. The command ship is here." She pointed at one of the Krell vessels, larger than the others but hanging back from the main battle. "That's their central consciousness?" Frost asked. "Yes. If we can disrupt it, even temporarily, it might give us an advantage." Frost opened the communication channel again. "Adam, new target. Dr. Green has identified their command ship." Adam received the data and immediately understood its importance. Through the neural link, he shared the information with the other Titans. Even as their suits took damage, even as the pain from the neural feedback grew, they adjusted their strategy. "Daniel, target the command ship's communication array," Adam ordered. "Grace, create a diversion on the eastern flank. The rest of you with me." The Titans moved with perfect coordination, each understanding their role without needing explanation. Daniel's railgun fired repeatedly at the command ship's antenna array, while Grace led her team in a fierce assault that drew many of the Krell ships away from the main target. Adam charged forward with the remaining Titans, taking the most direct route to the command ship. Krell energy beams struck them repeatedly, but they didn't slow. "They're going to make it," Ryan said, watching the monitors in amazement. Adam reached the command ship first. His Goliath suit was badly damaged, systems failing throughout its massive frame, but he still had enough strength for what needed to be done. He plunged his armored fist directly into the ship's hull, tearing open a breach. The other Titans followed, widening the hole. Inside the command center, Dr. Green watched in amazement as her equipment registered the disruption in the Krell communication network. "It's working. Their hive mind is destabilizing." On the battlefield, the effect was immediate. Krell ships that had been moving with perfect coordination suddenly seemed confused. Some stopped firing, others changed course without apparent reason. "Push the advantage," Admiral Frost ordered. The Titans redoubled their attack, focusing on the command ship's vulnerable inner systems. Adam reached the central chamber, where a large, pulsing organic structure glowed with strange energy. Without hesitation, he tore it free from its connections. The effect rippled through the entire Krell fleet. Ships began to drift, their weapons going silent. Some actually crashed into each other as if their pilots had suddenly forgotten how to fly. "They're retreating," Daniel reported through the link. "All Krell ships are breaking orbit." Inside the facility, cheers broke out among the staff. Admiral Frost allowed himself a small smile. "We've just changed the course of this war," he said quietly. Hours later, as the Titans returned to the facility for repairs, Adam stood before the collected staff and officers. His biosuit was torn in several places, showing the enhanced flesh beneath, but he stood tall, his eyes taking in the humans who had created him and his kind. "Today we won a battle," he told them, "but the Krell will adapt again. They will return." "Admiral," Frost stepped forward. "When they do, we'll be ready. Thanks to you." Adam looked at the other Titans, his brothers and sisters in arms. They had been created for this war, born to fight an enemy that humans could not face alone. They had been feared, hidden away, only to emerge when needed most. "We were made to be humanity's shields," Adam said. "Today we fulfilled that purpose." Outside the facility, Earth hung in the black sky, blue and peaceful. The Krell had burned humanity's colonies, destroyed outposts and stations throughout the solar system, but they had not reached Earth, not yet. And as long as the Titans stood between humanity and extinction, they never would. The giants had entered the battlefield, and they would not leave it until humanity was safe.